Circuit Court of Fairfax County is now in session. The Honorable Penny Ascarani presiding.
Good morning, Judy.
Please be seated for the-
All right, good morning. All right, do we have any preliminary matters before we bring the jury out?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, good. Okay, that's fine. Which exhibit number is it?
One from yesterday is defendant's 1246.
1246? Okay, great. All right, perfect. Thank you. All right, you get the jury. 46. All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. All right, your next witness.
Good morning, Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Depp calls Terrence Dougherty, Dougherty, and for the first part of the deposition, it will be Mr. Depp's counsel asking the questions, and then it will change, and we'll let you know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Address.
360 Riverside Drive.
Good morning, Mr. Dougherty. Would you please state your full name for the record?
Terrence Dougherty.
What is your address?
360 Riverside Drive, New York, 10025. I went to Oberlin College. I got a BA there, and with the majors in history and in English, and I studied viola da gamba performance at the Oberlin Conservatory. I then took 4 years. 4 years after I graduated, I went to Columbia Law School.
In what year did you receive your BA from Oberlin?
1991.
And what did you do in the 4 years between your graduation from Oberlin and going to law school?
I was a kindergarten teacher in the South Bronx at a homeless shelter for a few years. And then I did freelance editing work for an academic press named Routledge, and simultaneously was the writer, research assistant to feminist cultural critic Bell Hooks.
And remind me, sir, where you went to law school?
Columbia.
Did you receive your JD from Columbia?
I did.
In what year was that?
1998.
Having received a JD from Columbia, I take it you know what a statute of limitations is. Is that correct?
Correct.
After receiving your JD from Columbia, what did you do in terms of your professional life?
I worked at Fried, Frank, Harris, Shriver, and Jacobson for about 4 years, 3.5, 4 years. I was in their tax department. And after that, I went to work at Patterson Belknap. And I was also in the tax department there, but worked on primarily with their exempt organization clients. Patterson has a large exempt organization client practice.
Is it fair to say that you worked for Mr. Schwartz's firm, Patterson Belknap, from about 2002 until about 2005?
That's exactly right.
Did there come a time you left Patterson Belknap to work for the ACLU Foundation?
Correct.
At the time you left, was the ACLU a client of Patterson Belknap?
Yes.
And it continues to be a client until the present day, correct?
Correct.
Was there any time between 2005 and today where Patterson Belknap ceased to be a client of the ACLU?
No. You mean where the ACLU ceased to be a client of Patterson, right?
Yes, thank you for that correction.
Yeah, no, we've been a client the whole time. Not always with active matters, of course, but a client the whole time.
In what capacity did you start at the ACLU Foundation in 2005?
I was the ACLU's first in-house lawyer. My title was Senior Corporate Counsel.
What were your responsibilities generally when you began as Senior Corporate Counsel at the ACLU Foundation?
My role was to serve as the organization's in-house lawyer and to assess what the needs were for an in-house counsel department or practice at the ACLU.
And I take it you have continued to work as a lawyer at the ACLU on an uninterrupted basis from 2005 to the current day?
Correct. My title changed relatively soon after 2005. In either 2006 or early 2007, my title was changed to General Counsel.
Is that still your title today?
It's part of my title. I'm General Counsel, and I'm also Chief Operating Officer.
To whom do you report?
I report to Anthony Romero, the Executive Director, Chief Executive Officer.
So that's a direct report. There's no intermediary between the two of you, correct?
Yeah, direct report.
Sitting here today, do you know how much money Ms. Hurd has actually donated to the ACLU, actually remitted to the ACLU?
Yes, I do.
How much is that?
So when you say remitted, do you mean direct payments from her personally, or do you mean payments on her behalf, or payments from a donor advised fund that she might have set up, or are you?
We can break it down. Let's first, from how much has Ms. Hurd paid directly to the ACLU?
That would be $350,000 paid directly.
How much has been paid indirectly and credited to Ms. Heard?
There was $100,000, which was a check from Johnny Depp. There was a $500,000 payment from a donor-advised fund at Vanguard. And then there was a $350,000 payment that appears to be from a donor-advised fund at Fidelity, making it total $1.2 million.
And when you speak of credited toward Amber Heard, to what are you referring?
And I think I might have done the math wrong. Let me just do the math in my head. It's 700, 800 plus the 5. I think 1.3 is the amount. We received a check from for the $100,000 payment. We received a check from Johnny Depp's representatives, and it was said to be a payment in connection with on behalf of Amber Heard. She confirmed that. The $500,000 payment from Vanguard Charitable, she confirmed was a payment on her behalf, and the $350,000 payment as well.
When you say credited toward her, what does that mean?
Well, she had, when we initially had contact with Amber Heard in 2016, she indicated her desire to pay $3.5 million to the ACLU, and that was, and these were amounts that were in relation to that, her having expressed that that's what she wanted to pay to the ACLU.
So it's fair to say that she has not donated $3.5 million as of today to the ACLU, true?
True.
When you say that Mr. Depp, our client, donated $100,000 to be credited toward Amber Heard, did the ACLU in fact credit that $100,000 toward the $3.5 million Ms. Heard promised to donate to the ACLU?
We do credit it.
Did Ms. Heard direct you to credit it to her account, as it were?
We asked Ms. Heard if we should credit it, and she said that we should.
With what person or entity is Vanguard Charitable associated?
So Vanguard Charitable is a nonprofit that Vanguard, the financial institution, has set up that provides for a wide variety of donor-advised funds for individuals to use for their charitable giving. So there are thousands of Vanguard Charitable donor-advised funds. If you are asking specifically about the one that we received the $500,000 contribution from, we believe that that is a donor-advised fund that was set up by Elon Musk.
Who is Elon Musk?
He's a tech entrepreneur.
And isn't he also a donor to the ACLU Foundation in his own right?
Yes.
But it's your testimony that as to the $500,000 that came from Vanguard Charitable, that was associated with Elon Musk, correct?
We believe so, but it is not conclusive.
Did the ACLU have any communications with Elon Musk about the $500,000 contribution?
Yes.
And please describe those communications.
There is a document that we produced that Elon Musk emails Anthony Romero regarding the $500,000 contribution.
What did Ms. Heard tell Mr. Romero or the ACLU about her donation and how much she was going to contribute?
There were communications back and forth between the ACLU and Ms. Heard, including a thank you acknowledgement letter that Mr. was sent under Mr. Romero's name to Ms. Heard, thanking her for the $350,000 contribution, noting that it was part of her intention to make a $3.5 million contribution to the ACLU, and Mr. Romero attached to that communication a standard ACLU pledge form and so that was the communication. We were aware very early on that her intention to contribute the $3.5 million to us was half of her $7 million divorce proceedings. I don't recall which specific communication with us gave us that knowledge.
What, if any, understanding did the ACLU have prior to the publication of the op-ed about Ms. Heard's plans to dispose of the other half of the $7 million settlement, or the other $3.5 million?
Yes, we understood that the other $3.5 million, the other half, was going to a children's hospital in Los Angeles.
When did the first donation, the $350,000 from Ms. Heard, actually arrive at the ACLU?
It was very soon after the communication between Elon Musk and Anthony, and I believe that it was that communication was in August of 2016, and it was shortly thereafter.
Please describe your conversations with Ms. Weitz.
I asked Ms. Weitz whether it was her decision to ask Ms. Heard to be an ACLU ambassador, and she indicated that it was. I asked Ms. Weitz to describe what are the criteria for, sorry, a calendar thing popped up. What are the criteria for asking for becoming an ACLU ambassador? And what were the reasons why she thought that Ms. Heard would be an appropriate ACLU ambassador?
How did Ms. Weitz respond?
She said that ACLU ambassadors are people who are artists or influencers that are aligned with one or two ACLU policy issues. And the criteria for determining whether somebody can be an ambassador is that they have prior expertise in that policy area, that they can speak in detail about the area, that they are aligned with the ACLU's policy views of the area, and that they have significant following so that their communications to the public that we support reach a wide variety of people.
Of those criteria, which did Ms. Weitz identify as the most important, if any?
I don't think there's any that she did not identify any as the most important.
What, if anything, did Ms. Weitz tell you about Ms. Heard's expertise in women's rights?
Ms. Weitz said that she had arranged a meeting between Ms. Heard and representatives of our Women's Rights Project and our Reproductive Freedom Project, and Ms. Heard spoke with such clarity and expertise on issues of gender-based violence that she decided that she would be an appropriate person to ask to become an ACLU ambassador, and she did so.
What, if anything, did Ms. Weitz tell you about Ms. Heard's significant following?
Ms. Weitz said that she looked at Ms. Heard's social media.
Anything else?
No, not that she said to me.
All right, let's look to topic 6. What, if anything, did you do to prepare to testify about your role, the ACLU's role in the conception, preparation, drafting, or publication of the op-ed?
I reviewed the documents that we produced. I had 3 meetings with our lawyers. I spoke with Ms. Weitz and Mr. Romero.
Please describe your discussions with Ms. Weitz.
I asked Ms. Weitz whether she was involved and what her involvement was with respect to the conception, preparation, drafting, and our publication of the op-ed. And she indicated that because of her role as our Director of Artistic Engagement, she was involved in all aspects of the conception, preparation, drafting, and publication, and that the other members of the communications department who worked on this, even though they didn't necessarily report to her in terms of our hierarchy, they reported to her in terms of this specific task. She was the person who was the director of this project.
Did Ms. Weitz tell you that she participated in the drafting of the op-ed?
Yes.
Other than Ms. Weitz, were there any other lawyers at the ACLU involved in the drafting of the op-ed?
Ms. Weitz is not a lawyer. So were there lawyers involved in the drafting of the op-ed? I believe it was the drafting of the op-ed was all done within the communications department.
What is Ms. Weitz's academic background?
I don't know her academic background.
Was any ACLU lawyer, and I mean in-house lawyer, involved in the drafting of the op-ed?
I believe the answer is yes. I believe that there are documents that support back and forth between support for the op-ed, but I don't recall.
Sitting here today, do you know how many ACLU lawyers were involved in the drafting of the op-ed?
No, I don't.
Were there any ACLU lawyers involved in the reviewing of the op-ed before it was submitted to the Washington Post?
Yes, there were.
How many?
I think there were 4.
Were you one of the 4?
No, I was not one of the 4. And to be clear, when what I was referring to were people in our legal department who are experts on women's rights issues. There was nobody from neither I nor anybody on my in-house counsel team was involved in the drafting of the op-ed or the review of the op-ed.
Why not?
We were not involved. We were not brought into the loop. I don't know why.
Is it fair to say that the ACLU didn't think there were any potential legal implications to the ACLU involved in the publication of the op-ed?
I have not spoken with any of the lawyers in the legal department about whether they thought it would be necessary to involve any member of my in-house counsel team in the review of the op-ed.
Who were the 4 attorneys in-house at the ACLU who were involved in reviewing the op-ed before it was submitted to the Washington Post? Okay,
so I was referring to people in the legal department, not the in-house counsel's office, the legal department who do our work, our civil liberties litigation and advising on legal issues relating to civil liberties. And I believe that the op-ed, the 4, was reviewed by Lenora Lapidus, David Cole, I believe Louise Melling was involved, and there may have also been a fellow that was involved in reviewing it. These are all, there are a number of back and forth emails that we produced that will indicate specifically who those people were.
Okay, let's move to Exhibit 2, please.
Yes, sir, stand by.
Mr. Doherty, have you ever seen this document before?
Yes.
What is it?
These are conversations within the ACLU Communications Department about Ms. Hurd donations to the ACLU and the possible engagement of that issue as a communications matter for the ACLU.
Mr. Doherty, if we could start in the email in the middle of the first page of Exhibit 2.
The middle of the first page. Okay, go ahead.
Yes. Who is Stacy Sullivan?
Stacy Sullivan was a senior person in our communications department.
Is she still at the ACLU?
No.
When did she leave?
I don't recall the date.
Who is Stephen Smith?
Stephen Smith, at the time, was our Associate Director for Strategic Communications. Now he is the Deputy Communications Director.
And I believe you testified earlier that Mr. Romero first came to learn about this through Elon Musk. Is that right?
Correct.
Tell us exactly who ACLU Media is. You said it's
an email account that is monitored by members of the communication staff so that when media inquiries come in, rather than them going to a specific individual in the communications department who could be working on something else or on leave, it goes to a central email account that is then monitored and emails within it are directed to the appropriate people.
Who's Sandra?
I assume that is Sandra Park, who is a lawyer in our Women's Rights Project.
Was Ms. Park involved in the op-ed in any way, either reviewing or approving?
I believe she was.
And that coverage is good for the ACLU, correct?
Yes.
And the press coverage, among other things, enabled the ACLU to promote its work helping victims of domestic violence, correct?
Correct.
Specifically, how does the ACLU record donations?
We record donations in our donor database. It's referred in the trade as a CRM, a constituent record management system. And at this time, our CRM was a company called PIDI. At this point, our CRM is with Salesforce.
Is there anyone at the ACLU who interacts or who interacted with PIDI?
There are many members of our development department that interacted with PIDI with respect to the functioning support of that system and the vendor relationship. And I'm not sure if you're asking this, but then there are a number of people in the development department who can input donor information into this database. I don't see them as having interaction with PIDI, but it's with our database.
What type of information is input?
It's very broad. The names, address, contact information, donations, prior history with donations, issues that they are particularly interested in. It's also differs depending on the nature of the donor. If somebody gives a $50 annual donation, that is recorded. If somebody is a $3 million a year donor to the ACLU, a different level of information is recorded in the system.
If someone makes a donation on behalf of another person or to be credited to another person, how is that recorded by the ACLU?
It is reported as such as relating to, but there's many different ways that could somebody could give on behalf of somebody else. People can make a gift in honor of somebody else. People can make a gift in order to fulfill someone else's pledge. People can make a gift. A donor may help bring another donor to the ACLU. All of that information is recorded in our systems.
Can a donor earmark his or her donation for a particular purpose?
Absolutely.
After Ms. Hurd announced her donation to the ACLU, what specifically did the ACLU do to document that donation?
Well, we sent out a note to Amber thanking her for the donation. That is likely the contribution acknowledgement letter that Mimi is referring to. And that information was kept in our files. And the information regarding Ms. Hurd was recorded in our Salesforce, or at the time, PIDI database.
At the time the ACLU sent Ms. Hurd the acknowledgement letter, was it the ACLU's expectation that the $3.5 million would be paid by Ms. Hurd in all at once in a lump sum?
No, I do not believe it was. I believe that we believe that it would, based on the Elon Musk email, we thought that it might be, that it was intended to be over a 10-year period, although that was never specifically confirmed.
Well, that's interesting. What email are you referring to?
I believe that the first email from Elon Musk to Anthony Romero said that it was over a 10-year period.
Anything else to make the ACLU believe that Ms. Hurd was not paying the money right away out of her divorce settlement with Mr. Depp?
Anthony, in his communications with Ms. Hurd, referred to the amount as a pledge, and a pledge is generally what a pledge means is that the amount is not necessarily paid all at once. It's pledged to the organization rather than just sending a check. There's some kind of varying levels of commitment made to give amounts over a period of time, which is, useful for the charity to know so that it can make future projections as to income.
Mr. Doherty, who, if anyone at the ACLU, was assigned to handle or track Ms. Hurd's donation?
That would have been two different people, depending on what you mean by track. There is a person in our leadership gifts department, which is the department that deals with high-level donors. His name is John Moresco, and his role is to, in addition to facilitating, maintaining the relationship with those donors, is to oversee the back and forth with those donors for annual giving. So in this case, that would include Ms. Heard's gifts to the ACLU. And then there's a second group within the development department that is the team that maintains the overall donor database, the then PIDI, now Salesforce database.
Okay, was Exhibit 9 prepared in the ordinary course of the ACLU's business?
It's not back up on the screen yet. Okay, here it is. Yes, it was.
Is it maintained in the ordinary course of the ACLU's business?
Yes.
Were these emails, to your knowledge, prepared contemporaneously with people having knowledge of the contents?
Correct.
Okay, if we could please move ahead to Exhibit 11.
Yes, sir. Stand by.
Okay, I see it.
Mr. Doherty, you've ever seen this document before?
I have.
Is this one of the documents that you reviewed in preparation for your deposition today?
Yes.
Was this prepared in the ordinary course of the ACLU's business?
Yes.
Was it maintained in the ordinary course of the ACLU's business?
Yes.
Was it prepared by Mr. Romero contemporaneously on or about September 19th, 2016?
It was prepared by someone in our development department who I believe to be Mimi Clara, but yes, to the rest of your question.
Did Romero have knowledge of the contents of this letter that he signed?
Yes.
So he states to Ms. Heard, thank you for your wonderful gift of $350,000 to the ACLU, the first installment of your very generous pledge of $3.5 million. You see that?
Yes.
So as of September 9th, 2016, Ms. Heard had actually donated only $350,000, correct?
Correct.
Now, if you would please turn to the next page. I believe you referred to this before, but if you could just clear it up for the record. Have you ever seen this page before? And it's called Pledge Form, Batch number ACLU 3033.
Yes, I have.
What is it?
This is a document that is used, well, in the generic document is one that is used regularly by the development department. This one in particular is branded in connection with our 100th year anniversary, but that's just a branding thing. What the form is a form for people who are making pledges to the ACLU to document that that promise in a form like this. When a form like this is filled out, we see that as that documents the full amount that they intend to contribute and the time period over which those gifts are going to be made.
And is it your understanding, sir, that this pledge form and the two documents after it, ACLU 3034 and 3035, were in fact attached to the letter Mr. Romero sent Ms. Heard on September 9, 2016?
Yes.
And who prepared this ACLU 3033, the pledge form?
I believe that, well, it was somebody in our development department. I don't know whether it was Mimi Clara or John Moresco or someone else, but it was somebody who was preparing it in connection with the preparation of the tax acknowledgement letter.
There's a reference on top of the pledge form, Amber Heard, Cara Pierce O'Donnell, Greenberg, Glusker, and then there's some other names. Do you know what the firm Greenberg Glusker had to do with Amber Heard?
No.
And you have no idea why it was sent to Ms. Heard care of Mr. O'Donnell at Greenberg Glusker?
I expect that it is the case that, well, many of our significant donors have representatives that we work directly with on technical things such as a pledge form.
Okay. And directing your attention to the next page that was attached to Mr. Romero's letter, it also says pledge form, but it has some columns.
Yes.
Is it fair to say that this is a proposed schedule for payment of the remaining $3.5 million donation?
That is what it is.
And do you know that who came up with this proposed schedule?
I don't know who prepared this form and don't know who told the person who prepared this form to do the gift payment schedule in this way.
Do you see at the bottom of that page, ACLU 3034, part of Exhibit 11, that there is a signature line?
Correct. Yes, I do.
Did Ms. Hurd ever sign this pledge schedule?
No.
Did anyone at Greenberg Glusker or anyone else on behalf of Ms. Hurd ever sign this form?
No.
Why not?
I don't know the answer.
Did Ms. Hurd ever agree to any schedule for the payment of her $3.5 million donation?
There are documents that we produced that point to Ms. Hurd being aware of this as a multi-year commitment, including the Elon Musk email to Anthony and back and forth between Anthony and Amber on an annual basis about her, about this gift.
My question was actually a simple one. Did Ms. Hurd ever agree to any schedule for the payment of the remainder of the $3.5 million donation?
I don't recall her having seeing anything where she agreed to a 10-year schedule like this.
Let's go now, please, back to Exhibit 10.
Sir, stand by.
Okay. Mr. Doherty, have you ever seen this exhibit, Exhibit 10, before?
I have.
What is it?
This is an email exchange that includes Anthony Romero, our Director of Development, Mark Weir, the Executive Director of our Southern California affiliate, which encompasses LA, and me, regarding the check that we received from Johnny Depp's representatives in the amount of $100,000.
Was Exhibit 10 prepared in the ordinary course of the ACLU's business?
Yes.
Was it maintained by the ACLU in the ordinary course of its business?
Yes.
Were these emails prepared contemporaneously by people having knowledge of the content?
Yes.
Okay, let's move, please, to the second page of the exhibit. The email from Hector Villagra to Anthony Romero, dated August 25, 2016 at 12:44 p.m. Do you see that?
12.
At the bottom of this page.
At the bottom of this page?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Yep, 12:44. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Is Anthony Romero?
Yes.
And who is Hector Villagra?
Hector is the executive director of the ACLU of Southern California.
And you see where he informs Mr. Romero the actual check is for Mr. Depp, care of his CPA, and handwritten on the check it says donation being made in the name of Amber Heard. So I think you've testified that the ACLU in fact received a $100,000 check from Johnny Depp, correct?
Correct.
And do you know why Mr. Depp asked that it be credited to the name of Amber Heard?
No, I don't.
Mr. Villagra tells Mr. Romero that he has been designated, or that he has been the point person. What does that mean?
Hold on, let me just find that.
It's at the very end of the exhibit on the next page.
Oh, okay. My staff let me know that you have been the point person. Yes, Hector is saying that Anthony was the main person with the relationship with Amber as a donor.
And why was Mr. Romero the point person?
Mr. Romero is one of our most significant fundraisers at the organization, and he has a specific portfolio of donors that he and his team, such as John Moresco, support.
And do you see, going back to the second page of the exhibit, Mr. Romero's response to Mr. Villagra copied to Mark Weir that same day, or strike that on August 25th? Do you see that?
I do.
Now let's move back to the first page. And do you see the email from Mark Weiler to Hector Villagra, copied to Mimi Clara, on or about August 25th at 11:12 a.m.?
Yes.
So he says, just spoke with Anthony, just spoke with Anthony, who just got off the phone with Elon Musk. And Anthony refers to Anthony Romero, correct?
Correct.
Why was Mr. Romero discussing the Heard donation with Elon Musk?
My understanding is that Anthony reached out to Elon Musk because he had a prior relationship with Elon Musk, and Elon Musk was the person who first contacted Anthony about the donation, about a donation from Amber.
And wasn't Mr. Romero specifically asking him about Mr. Depp's donation of $100,000?
That's how I read this email, yes.
And if you look down, just below that, the email from Mr. Villagra to Mark Weir, and he says, got it, we will hold the check. That's a reference to the ACLU's holding the check from Johnny Depp, correct?
That's how I read this.
Okay, so now moving back up to that email from Mr. Weiler to Mr. Villagra, copied to Mimi Clara, he says, we're going to draft an email from Anthony to Amber explaining the situation and asking for her advice. What does he mean there?
I take that to mean that we wanted to hear from Amber regarding whether this gift was attributable to the amounts that she wanted to contribute to the ACLU.
Did the ACLU in fact reach out to Ms. Heard about Mr. Depp's $100,000 donation?
Yes, there are documents that we produced that show a back and forth on that point between Anthony and Ms. Heard.
And Mr. Weiler, or Mr. Weir, writes, I'll keep you in the loop, but definitely hold the check until we get clearance from Amber. Why would the ACLU need clearance from Amber Heard before it accepted a $100,000 donation from Johnny Depp?
My understanding of this is that we that we wanted to know whether this, before we cashed this check, whether it was in relation to the Amber Heard desire to contribute to the ACLU as opposed to a separate desire by Johnny Depp to contribute to us individually. And in fact, the communication from Johnny Depp's representative said that it was in connection with Amber Heard, so we wanted to clarify what was going on.
So moving to the email directly above that from Hector Villagra to Mark Weir, he says, we have more folks than I knew who followed TMZ. Here's their latest report. Amber Heard calls BS on Johnny's charity donation. Now you owe double. What's that a reference to?
I don't really know specifically, other than to say that this is more indication that we were unclear of whether the Johnny Depp gift would count toward the amounts that Amber said she wanted to contribute to the ACLU.
And then directing your attention to the top email in Exhibit 10, Mr. Weir responds, she's calling Johnny out on the $14 million in the press. What does that refer to?
I don't know. I'm not aware of how 14 million plays into any of this.
Okay, let's move ahead to Exhibit 12, please. Mr. Doherty, have you ever seen this document before?
Just making it larger. Yes, I have.
And what is it?
This is Amber confirming that we can cash Mr. Depp's check.
And did Ms. Heard, in fact, send this to Mr. Romero on or about October 17th, 2016?
Yes.
And is this a document that was created in the was maintained in the ordinary course of the ACLU's business?
Yes.
And it's true that the ACLU ultimately deposited Mr. Depp's check for $100,000, correct?
Correct.
Did the ACLU credit the $100,000 paid by Mr. Depp toward Ms. Heard's $3.5 million pledge or donation?
We do credit that $100,000 amount toward the toward Amber Heard's charitable giving to the ACLU.
Where, if at all, is that credit reflected in the ACLU's records?
There are documents that we produced that show the fact that this was considered part of Amber Heard's charitable giving to the ACLU.
After the ACLU received Ms. Heard's initial $350,000 payment, it received press inquiries about the Heard donation, correct?
Correct.
How many?
Oh, I don't know the specific number, sorry.
Was this document, Exhibit 20, maintained in the ordinary course of the ACLU's business?
Yes.
Was it prepared in the ordinary course of the ACLU's business contemporaneously by people having knowledge of the contents?
Yes.
On what date was Ms. Heard appointed an ACLU ambassador?
It was in October of 2018.
Okay, let's move ahead, please, to Exhibit 22. Did the ACLU ever issue a press release regarding the Vanguard $500,000 contribution?
I don't believe we ever issued a press release in 2017 regarding Amber Heard's donations to the ACLU.
Why not?
We received an email from Amber that is in the documents that says that we don't need to do this. We shouldn't do this this press release.
Let's go to 24, please.
Stand by.
Mr. Doherty, have you ever seen this document, Exhibit 24, before?
Yes.
What is it?
This is Anthony in his email to the one we just saw said that his comms people were going to be reaching out to Amber's people. And so Steve then starts that process, and Amber then Amber responds and says that she's no longer working with Pierce and introduces Steve to her new lawyer, Eric George. And she indicates that she has a concern about issuing a press statement.
Is this document maintained in the ordinary course of the ACLU's business?
Yes.
Was it prepared in the ordinary course of the ACLU's business?
Yes.
And was it prepared contemporaneously by people having knowledge of its contents?
Yes.
I'd like to direct your attention to the email at the top of the page. You see the email at the top of the page from Ms. Hurd to Jody Gottlieb and others, dated July 6, 2017?
I do.
Have you ever seen this document before?
Yes.
What is it?
This is Amber letting Steve know that she's no longer working with Pierce, but instead working with a new lawyer, and indicating to Steve that she is going to be talking with her PR team about whether, about issuing a press statement about her 2017 gift.
And directing your attention, she writes, their concern is that the press could potentially spin the fact that this is an installment and not the entire lump sum, as you well know, isn't possible due to the structure of the settlement agreement. The settlement agreement is a reference to the settlement agreement between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard of their divorce, correct?
I read that to reference to the settlement agreement to be the settlement agreement between Heard and Depp, but I don't have any independent knowledge of that.
What was the basis of your belief that she was going to pay you every year?
The original communications and her response to us when we reached out to her, and she indicated, on a number of occasions that this was something that she was going to be looking into.
But she didn't do it, did she?
What we did receive was the $500,000 Vanguard charitable contribution, and then the next year, the $350,000 contribution.
She didn't pay you on an annual basis, did she?
Yes, we didn't receive any amounts in 2019 and on.
Let's move up to the middle email on the page. Mr. Weir to Steve Smith. Thanks, Steve. Her gift is technically unrestricted, but it is weighted towards women's rights issues. What does that mean?
What that means is that there's a particular type of gift that is legally restricted for a specific purpose, and that could be the restriction could be done in a number of ways. That was not done in this situation, but nonetheless, the intention in making gifts to the ACLU was to support that work. So there's that subtle distinction, and this is not an uncommon one at the ACLU.
After the Vanguard payment of $500,000 in July 2017, what, if any, payments did Ms. Heard make to the ACLU?
There was one more payment of $350,000 that came from Fidelity Charitable. So it looked to be from a donor-advised fund at Fidelity.
And when was that donor-advised Fidelity payment made?
In 2018.
So that...
Go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, we have a document that we produced that shows the contributions that we'd received from Fidelity Charitable and the timing for each of those. One of which includes includes the Amber Heard 350.
Okay, if we could please move to Exhibit 39.
Yes, sir. Stand by.
I'm showing you what's been marked as Exhibit 39. Have you ever seen this document before?
Hold on, can we get the Bates stamp number, please?
It is 3037 ACLU.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm directing your attention to the penultimate entry on that page.
Yes,
There appears to be a reference. Well, first of all, have you ever seen this document before?
I have.
And what is it?
This is a document that we created that lists the contributions made to the ACLU on a specific date, December 11, 2018, that came from the online at Fidelity charitable account.
And is this document maintained in the ordinary course of the ACLU's business?
The information in this is maintained in the ordinary course of this business. We created this document in response to the discovery requests.
And does it truthfully and accurately reflect the donations made to the ACLU online on or about December 11th, 2018?
I believe that it does. It is a document that I believe our development department pulled information from Salesforce, our current CRM, into an Excel, and that's what this is.
So directing your attention to the penultimate entry on this page said $350,000 designation, donation from Amber Heard.
Mm-hmm.
What does that refer to?
What that refers to is that since the giving account are the names of the Fidelity Charitable Donor Advised Funds, which is the column in the right, this one is designated as anonymous, meaning that the person who set up the donor advised fund, in this case, I believe Amber, wanted it to be an anonymous donor advised fund. So that would be within her discretion to decide which gifts were that she recommended were her recommendations or not. And so we put into this special purpose category, we marked that this was a donation from Amber Heard, meaning a recommendation from her to make a contribution from her donor advised fund.
So this is an anonymous donation for someone in Amber Heard's name, correct?
It is anonymous to when this donor advised fund was set up, it was determined that that the gifts would presumptively be anonymous unless she were to recommend to state otherwise.
And did she ever state otherwise?
We believe that this was that she indicated that this was her $350,000 gift, and that's why we put into the column that this was a donation recommended by her from her donor advised fund.
But the money did not come from her, correct?
The money went from her to her donor advised fund, and then she recommended that the funds be paid from Fidelity to us. So the amount that $350 we received did not come from her directly. It came from what we believe to be her donor advised fund at Fidelity that she set up.
What basis, other than Ms. Heard's telling you, does the ACLU have for the proposition that Ms. Heard paid the money to Fidelity before it came and was given to the ACLU?
What we have is what she told us, which is how donor advised funds that are anonymous work. The only thing that we legally needed to know was that this came from the Fidelity charitable, and that's the kind of reporting that we would do on this. For example, if we were reporting on this gift in our tax filings or anything like that, we then, our donors who have donor advised funds, they then let us know that they made that recommendation, and we then credit it to them as being associated with their giving to us in our CRM.
Well, Mr. Doherty, I didn't ask you what the ACLU was legally required to do. I asked you what, if anything, the ACLU did to investigate whether, in fact, Ms. Heard provided the funds to Fidelity. And your answer is nothing, right?
Go ahead.
I don't believe there was anything else. I don't know what else we would have gotten.
So, just so the record is clear, the ACLU relied only on Ms. Heard, that she was the ultimate source of the Fidelity funds, correct?
Yes.
Because you've already testified that Ms. Heard was not the original source of the funds for the $500,000 Vanguard contribution, correct?
We received that $500,000 from Vanguard, their 501c3, not from any other person.
Right, but Vanguard was associated with Mr. Musk, true?
We believe that to be the case, yes.
Okay. So after this December 2018 donation, has Ms. Heard made any donations directly or indirectly to the ACLU?
No, those are the four contributions, the four that we've discussed.
Well, we're almost 3 years since her last contribution. What, if any, efforts has the ACLU made to get Amber Heard to pay?
We reached out to Ms. Heard. We reached out to Ms. Heard starting in 2019 for the next installment of her giving, and we learned that she was having financial difficulties.
Well, let's unpack that. So when in 2019 did the ACLU reach out to Ms. Heard about making her promised contributions?
I don't recall the date, but there is a document that we produced that was an email from Anthony to Amber about this in 2019.
Okay, let's move ahead to Exhibit 67, please. Have you seen these documents, these attachments before?
Yes, I've seen these.
Okay, and we'll just go through them one by one if you don't mind.
Sure.
If you look at Bates number 4673, it says $350,000, December 11th, 2018. What is that?
I believe this tracks with the Excel spreadsheet that we looked at just a few moments ago that talks about online giving through the Fidelity Charitable Fund. And whereas the prior one listed all of the December 11th, 2018 gifts, this one lists the $350,000 gift from the Amber's donor advised fund.
Moving to the next page, it says designation donor from Amber Heard. Do you see that?
Yes.
What does designation mean?
So this was the column in Salesforce that allows us to include additional information about gifts, in particular whether they are restricted in a certain way. And so that's why the term designation is used. And here, I think we filled into that designation field the information that we knew to be the case, which was that this was a recommendation from Amber Heard's donor advised fund.
Okay, now if you move to the next page, 4675, there's just one word on that, and it's anonymous. Do you know what that means?
This corresponds to the column of that same spreadsheet that listed the names of the donor-advised funds that individuals set up at Fidelity, and that the name of the Amber one was anonymous.
Now, when Ms. Heard made her direct payment, her first contribution of $350,000, that was not designated as anonymous, wasn't it? Was it?
That was not a gift from a donor-advised fund, so there weren't those columns for us to fill out. It was just a gift to the ACLU. And I do believe that in Anthony's acknowledgement letter to that included the pledge form that wasn't signed, he included a question about anonymity and whether we could list her as a donor in our annual report. So that was our first connection with her. So, we weren't sure whether her giving would be anonymous or not.
Well, the first donation wasn't anonymous, correct?
No, because it was not anonymous. But what I'm saying here is that this is the name. I believe this is the name of her donor-advised fund at Fidelity. And the first time she gave us a gift, I think it came right out of her own, banking accounts.
Right. And between the time Ms. Heard made her first donation of $350,000 directly, which is attributed directly to her, and the time this anonymous donation comes in, did anybody at the ACLU have any discussion with Ms. Heard as to whether she wanted anonymity?
I don't believe she did.
Okay, if you could move ahead, please, to page number 4678.
Yes.
Have you ever seen this document before?
Yes.
What is it?
This is the document that Vanguard Charitable, so Vanguard's 501c3 nonprofit, uses when someone makes a recommendation from a Vanguard Charitable Donor Advised Fund to give an amount to a charity. And they then send this letter saying that they, Vanguard, are giving this amount to the charity. And it describes whether, this is the document that would describe whether or not the donor wants to be anonymous or even wants to indicate to us who they are.
And this is the Vanguard contribution about which you testified earlier, correct?
Correct.
Let's move ahead, please, to 4679, which is the next page.
Yes.
And have you ever seen this document before?
I have.
And is this one of the documents that you reviewed in the context of preparing for this deposition?
Yes.
And directing your attention to the middle of the page, it says, remark from Amber Heard. What does that signify?
I'm sorry, I'm counting the 3 seconds. This is a record of a wire into our accounts at JP Morgan Chase in the amount of $350,000 from Amber Heard's account
And
at
this was
City National Bank.
And this was her first contribution, correct?
Yes, this is the 2016 August contribution.
Okay, and if you could move ahead, please, to the next page, ACLU 4680. Have you ever seen this document before?
I have.
What is it?
This is the original email from Elon to Amber and Anthony describing her plan to donate to the ACLU over the next 10 years and her support for our work, and that she wasn't restricting the gift. She just had a preference about the use of the funds, and that Anthony would forward her the wiring instructions, and then he did so, and then the $350,000 was wired, as we saw in that last JP Morgan Chase ACLU bank account wire record. And so Anthony let Amber know that we received it.
Okay, so let's unpack that a little bit. So The email in the middle of the page was an email sent to Mr. Romero from Elon Musk on or about August 18th, 2016 at 1:14 p.m., correct?
Correct.
And he says, Amber, I described your plan to donate $3.5 million to the ACLU over the next 10 years, as you very much believe in what they are doing. You see that?
Yes.
Why was Ms. Heard, or strike that, why was Mr. Musk representing this on behalf of Ms. Heard?
I don't know the answer to that question, but assume it's because of Elon's prior relationship with Anthony and that he indicated, I will make that introduction for you.
He is representing that Ms. Heard's plan was to donate $3.5 million over the next 10 years. Is that correct?
Correct, that was her plan.
Did Ms. Heard ever say in words or substance that Mr. Musk was not correct and that wasn't her plan?
I do not believe she ever said that.
So she never refuted Mr. Musk's representation that she was going to pay the full $3.5 million, correct?
It isn't the case that she didn't object to that she was going to pay the 3.5. It's just that she didn't object that that was her plan as of August 18th, 2016.
Thank you, Mr. Doherty. Let's move to the next page, which is 4681.
Yes.
And you see at the top it says Salesforce screenshot. Would you remind us, please, what Salesforce is?
It's our current CRM, our constituent record management system, which is where we store all the information we have about our donors. We call it our donor database.
And I believe that we've seen a version of this in an email from Mr. Moresco, correct?
I do recall that this this is part of documents that we produced.
Okay, well, let's start from the bottom up.
Sure.
If you look at the bottom entry in the column, it had the entry that has a close date 8/19/2016, completed $350,000. What does that mean?
That's a record of her $350,000 contribution to us.
And you see the designation, the giving name pledge payment?
I do.
And what does that refer to?
That this was in connection with her overall plan to make a contribution to us of $3.5 million.
Okay, now let's move up to the entry in the middle of the chart. It says Ms. Amber Heard's soft credit 2017, close date June 12, 2017, completed $500,000. What does that mean?
That's the record of the Vanguard charitable contribution in 2017.
Why does it say soft credit instead of pledge payment?
Because it didn't come directly from Amber. It came from the Vanguard Charitable Trust, Charitable Fund. And we wanted to continue to associate it, though, with Amber in our donor database.
Is it customary for the ACLU to make distinctions between hard donations, that is coming directly from the donor, and donations made by others in the donor's name?
It's extremely important for us to understand whether funds came directly to us from a donor, from a donor's donor-advised fund, or from another donor altogether. That's all very helpful information to us as we think through our fundraising program.
So, but my question was, is it common practice? And it sounds like it is common practice because you say it's important, correct?
Yeah, I believe it's a common practice. I believe it's a common practice.
Okay, and then let's look at the top entry in the chart.
Yes.
This is for the December 2018 payment, and I believe you testified this is the last payment Ms. Heard has made, correct?
Correct.
and it says Ms. Amber Heard donation 2018 payment. What does this signify?
This signifies this relates to the 2018 $350,000 gift that we got, which I believe came from Amber's donor advised fund at Fidelity.
Okay, and let's close this out by looking at 4682. Purports to be an email from Liz Fitzgerald to Jonathan Moresco. Who is Liz Fitzgerald?
Liz Fitzgerald's then title was Director of Special Gifts, but her current title is the Director of Development. She's the #2 in our development department. She reports directly to Mark Weir. And even then, as Director of Special Gifts, she reported directly to Mark Weir.
Okay. All right. And with respect to Exhibit 67, the attachments that we've described, were they created in the ordinary course of the ACLU's business?
The only one that I would not say was in our ordinary course of business is number 4681, in that this was created in connection with a discussion with Amber Heard's attorneys about Amber's donations to the ACLU.
But all of the other documents in this exhibit were created in the ordinary course of the ACLU's business, correct?
Correct. And even this one came from our donor database, which is something that we keep in the ordinary course of our business.
And it's your testimony sitting here today that the information depicted on ACLU 4681 is accurate and reflects the accounting records kept in the ACLU's ordinary course of business, correct?
It is correct that we received the 350, the 500, and the 350, and that we associated them all in some way with Amber. It does not list the 100,000 Johnny Depp payment, and there's differing terms that are used in that. I'm not sure we would use the term soft credit. We might refer to another way now. After that 2017 gift, that's when we launched the new database system, the Salesforce system, and prior it had been the PIDI system. So we had been doing some changes to definitions about how we record gifts. But the basic, which is that these are all associated with Amber Heard, these 3 gifts, that is absolutely accurate.
Well, you raised a good point. Why isn't the $100,000 donated by Johnny Depp credited to Amber Heard?
I think it should have been recorded in our database because it's information that we would want to have in that database about gifts relating to our relationship with Amber Heard. And we now do consider that gift as part of the constellation of gifts that are attributed to our relationship with Amber Heard.
So that's how you would get from the 1.2 million to the 1.3 million, right?
Yes, 700 plus 1 is 800 plus 500 is 1.3, correct.
So the ACLU sitting here today attributes $1.3 million toward Ms. Heard's $3.5 million pledge, correct?
Correct.
And of that $1.3 million, $100,000 was paid by Johnny Depp, true?
Correct.
So putting aside 4681, all of the emails prepared by ACLU employees in the course of their ordinary business?
Yeah, I'm just reminding myself. Well, I believe that 4679 was also downloaded from our records in relation to this litigation matter. I don't believe that we created this document and had it in a paper file somewhere. But I think we pulled this information, this wiring information. It may be the same wiring information that was looked at the time that the donation was made.
So Exhibit 67, it's fair to say, is comprised of ACLU business records kept and maintained in the ordinary course, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Excuse me, Your Honor. We're going to change topics with Mr. Daugherty. And
Take our morning break.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, let's go ahead and take our 15-minute recess. Do not discuss the case with anybody. Don't do any outside research, and we'll see you then. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and come back and take a break until 11:45, okay? All right, thank you. All right, we ready for the jury? Okay. All right, if you want to continue.
Let's move ahead, please. One, have you ever seen this document before?
Yes.
What is it?
This is a series of communications among people in our communications department around engaging Amber on our programmatic work, specifically relating to her being an ACLU ambassador.
Let's now turn back to the email starting on ACLU 47. Bottom of the page from Gary Johnson to Jody Gottlieb and others.
Yeah.
Purportedly dated November 6, 2018. Who's Jerry Johnson?
Jerry Johnson was a more junior person in our communications department. His title was Communications Department Strategist. And strategists are often communications department associates that have expertise in and do work in a select number of our issue areas.
Okay, he writes, I'd like your and Amber's thoughts on doing an op-ed in which she discusses the ways in which survivors of gender-based violence have been made less safe under the Trump administration and how people can take action. Why was the ACLU recommending that Amber write on that subject?
With Amber agreeing to be an ambassador and to work on women's rights issues and in particular issues of gender-based violence, Jerry was coming up with specific things that were of significant policy importance to the ACLU that could be the subject matter of an op-ed written by Amber.
Directing your attention a few lines down, he uses the acronym GBV. What does that mean?
Gender-based violence.
Then further down, he says, if she feels comfortable, she can interweave her personal story, saying how painful it is as a GBV survivor to witness these setbacks. What is the ACLU referring to when it talks about her personal story?
There were a number of things that Amber had expressed from her personal story about her having been a survivor of gender-based violence. And so one of the things that we do with ambassadors is we want them to tell authentic stories about our issues in the public, and to the extent that they have any personal direct experiences, for that to be part of their story for the public.
So the ACLU was not forcing her to relate her own experience with GBV. It was leaving it up to Ms. Heard's discretion, correct?
Correct.
And Exhibit 31 was prepared in the ordinary course of the ACLU's business, correct?
Correct.
And it was maintained in the ordinary course of the ACLU's business, correct?
Correct.
Let's move to Exhibit 33, please. Mr. Doherty, asking you to please look at Exhibit 33 and ask whether you've ever seen this before.
I have.
See the email from Robin Schulman to Jessica Weitz dated November 14th at 10:58 a.m.?
Yes.
Who is Jessica Schulman?
Robin Schulman is a person in the communications department who is no longer with us, but who had expertise in issues involving gender issues.
Well, you anticipated my next question. Is Robin Schulman still at the ACLU?
No.
And is she an attorney?
I don't know whether she's an attorney. A number of our communications department staff members are, but I don't know. She wasn't working as an attorney.
Ms. Schulman is asking Ms. Weitz, what's the status of this situation? What situation was she referring to?
The situation is whether we are going to be doing an op-ed with Amber.
Okay, and moving up on the page, there's an email from Jerry Johnson who says, quote, Jess had drinks with Amber last night, and it sounds like she was able to confirm with her that we'll be doing the first draft.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean?
It is often a decision has to be made when we're working with ambassadors or with other people who are speaking to the public, who does the first draft of the document. So it sounds here that Jerry is saying that that from Jess's conversation with Amber, we are moving forward with some kind of an op-ed, and that ACLU communications department staff members would be writing the first draft of it.
And Jess refers to Jessica Weitz?
Yes.
Okay, let's please turn to Exhibit 35, please. Have you ever seen this document before, Mr. Doherty?
And yes, I have seen this document. Thanks, Michael. I didn't.
And what is it?
This is a series of communications about the. It's the result of a series of communications about the op-ed that Amber, under Amber's name, took place with a media outlet. And so this is Jessica Weitz sending a draft of that to Amber.
Great. And let's go to the first email first, the email that starts in the second half of ACLU 185. It purports to be from Robin Schulman to Jessica Weitz on November 29. Do you see that?
I do.
And is she attaching the first draft of the op-ed to that email?
So I assumed that it was not an attachment, but it was just pasted into an email, but I can't tell from this. I don't see anybody saying attached, so it could be either. But what I see this as is Robin sending a note to Jess Weitz for Jess Weitz to then forward to Amber.
Understood. Robin says, I tried to gather your fire and rage and really interesting analysis and shape that into an op-ed form. What does that refer to?
That refers to the effort for our ACLU ambassadors to speak publicly in a way that is impactful, that is shows the importance of the issues and how important they are personally to individuals. And in this case, therefore, Amber's passion for working on gender-based violence issues and speaking about it, and that she has an analysis that is one that Robin finds interesting.
And so when she's referring to fire and rage, that's Ms. Heard's fire and rage, correct?
Yeah, that's my read of this, even though I recognize that it is confusing because it's an email from Robin to Jess.
And the rage would be directed against Johnny Depp, who purportedly abused her, correct?
I didn't take it to mean that. I took it to mean fire and rage about gender-based violence issues.
Was it your understanding that it was Robin Schulman who prepared the first draft of the op-ed?
Yes.
Okay. And Robin says to Jessica, your lawyers should review this for the way I skirted around talking about your marriage. Whose lawyers is she referring to there?
I believe these are Amber's regular advisors or who were involved in the review negotiation of the NDA between Amber and Johnny Depp.
And then if you look at, direct your attention to the top email from Jessica White's to Amber Heard, she says to Amber, apologies for the delay, but we have needed to pass this through quite a few lawyers. What lawyers did Jessica White's pass the op-ed through?
These were lawyers in the Women's Rights Project of the ACLU, plus the director of the Center for Liberty, the deputy legal director of the ACLU who runs the Center for Liberty, within which is the Women's Rights Project, and even the legal director of the ACLU who runs the whole legal department, our programmatic litigation work on behalf of civil liberties, David Cole.
But it never got to your level, correct?
Well, David Cole is at my level, just to be clear. He also reports to the executive director, but it never got to me or anybody on my team.
No one asked you to review the first draft of the op-ed?
No.
Did anybody ever ask you to review any drafts of the op-ed, including the final draft that was published in the Washington Post?
No.
She says, I want to make sure nothing was said in here that puts you in jeopardy with your NDA. What does that refer to?
The non-disclosure agreement that was entered into between Depp and Heard in connection with the dissolution of their marriage and the settlement agreement.
Okay, and is this a document that was prepared in the ordinary course of the ACLU's business?
Yes.
Was it kept in the ordinary course of the ACLU's business?
Yes.
All right, let's move please to Exhibit 37. Have you ever seen Exhibit 37 before?
Yes.
What is it?
This is a draft of the op-ed that Robin is sending to Amber after a conversation that they had to discuss the issues in the op-ed, and in particular, to have a conversation about the op-ed. And then she sends her changes that were made to the op-ed that were relating to things that Robin and Amber discussed during that meeting.
And to be clear, this next draft of the op-ed reflects changes that Robin Schulman made after she met in person with Amber Heard. Is that correct?
Correct.
What did Ms. Schulman and Ms. Heard discuss during their in-person meeting?
My understanding is that they discussed some of the personal experiences that Amber Heard has had that that Robin used to incorporate into the op-ed.
And isn't it true that Ms. Heard's advisors initially revised the draft to remove any reference to Ms. Heard's marriage or divorce?
I recall a number of email communications back and forth among ACLU personnel and Ms. Heard's attorneys where they were suggesting edits to the op-ed relating to matters covered in the NDA.
And then isn't it also true that there were some at the ACLU who expressed their belief that excising those references to her marriage and divorce from Johnny Depp made the op-ed less impactful, correct?
It is correct. That is correct.
But ultimately, based on those voices, Ms. Heard pushed to get that excised material back into the op-ed so it could be more impactful, true?
That's not my understanding. My understanding is that the language that wound up in the final op-ed piece was very different from the original language that Robin included in the op-ed after having spoken with Amber about her personal experiences.
And how was it different?
It did not refer directly to Ms. Heard's relationship with Johnny Depp.
Okay, let's move ahead, please, to Exhibit 38.
Yes, sir. Stand by.
Mr. Doherty, have you ever seen this document before?
Yes.
And is this one of the documents you reviewed in preparation for your deposition?
Yes.
What does this relate to?
So this relates to Stacy Sullivan, who reported to Terry Tang, and her role with respect to this op-ed piece was to think about the best place to place it and to make the contacts with the media in order to get it placed.
And she suggests here that the outlets that the ACLU and Ms. Heard was considering were the New York Times, the Washington Post, Team Vogue, and USA Today. Is that correct?
So not Stacy, but Jerry, who I think you said she, Jerry is a he, and Jerry wrote some suggested places to place this after having had conversations with Amber.
And Jerry's suggestions were the New York Times, Washington Post, Team Vogue, or USA Today. Is that correct?
Correct.
Whose responsibility was to place the op-ed? Was it the ACLU's, Ms. Heard's, or some combination of the two?
The work to place the op-ed was taken on by the ACLU in that we have in our communications department people with expertise and who regularly do just that kind of work. But as we can see from this email, it was done in consultation with Amber Heard.
And Mr. Johnson writes, since the draft turned out pretty strong and Aquaman slated to do large numbers, I'm wondering what you think about it. What does he mean by saying the draft turned out pretty strong?
This appears to be the analysis of how broad-based and how what kind of reach the media outlets where we can place this will have, and that media outlets are more likely to take on publishing an op-ed like this if it is a strong one, and if it is, and to the extent that it is written by a public person who's an entertainer or a well-known person, that the more they are in the public eye at the time, the more likely it will be accepted by a more prominent or broader reach media outlet. And so that's the sort of descending media outlets are in descending terms in terms of descending, likelihood of, descending importance and reach, but greater likelihood from, for example, as we go down that list.
And Amber's referencing her own direct personal experience, and her marriage to Johnny Depp makes it a stronger product, correct?
I think that the Amber's contributions to the portion of the op-ed that talks about personal experiences is part of what informed the view that this was a strong op-ed, and the importance of the women's rights issues referred to in the op-ed, in that some of them were very timely women's rights issues before Congress.
And Ms. Heard had a co-starring role in Aquaman, correct?
I don't know whether she was a co-star, but I know that that was a film that she was in.
And didn't she tell the ACLU that she wanted the op-ed to come out just after Aquaman was released?
I do recall that there was a conversation about the optimal timing for the op-ed piece.
And as part of that conversation, Ms. Heard said in words or substance that she wanted the op-ed to come out soon after Aquaman, correct?
I believe that's correct.
Who did she relate that to?
I don't recall, although I believe that there's documents that we produced that can shed some light on that.
Is Exhibit 38 kept in the ordinary course of the ACLU's business?
Yes.
Was it prepared by people with knowledge and prepared in a contemporaneous manner?
Yes, it was.
And it was made in the ordinary course of the ACLU's business, true?
True.
Okay, if we could move ahead, please, to Exhibit 41. This is another one of these, well, it's not that long.
Yes, sir. Stand by.
Mr. Doherty, have you ever seen this document before?
Yes.
What is it?
These are further communications among employees, staff members in the development department regarding the placement of Amber's ad and the finalization of the op-ed piece. Not ad, I'm sorry, op-ed and the finalization of it.
Great, and if we could move ahead, please, to ACLU 257, and specifically the email from Robin Schulman to Jessica Weitz on December 11th, continuing on to the next, or strike that. Let's go to the email on the last line, Jessica Weitz's email. She says, team.
What's the timestamp? What's the timestamp on the email that you're referring to?
I'm sorry. This is December 11th email at 11:05 a.m.
Okay.
From Jessica Weitz. You see that? Okay. And she says, Amber sent back the op-ed with final edits from her legal team, which specifically neutered much of the copy regarding her marriage and the domestic violence. Do you see that?
I do.
Is that consistent with your recollection?
I'm not sure about the use of the term neutered here, but I do know that her lawyers removed references to her marriage and divorce.
And then she writes, the goal is to get this out this week to capitalize on the tremendous campaign for Aquaman. What does that mean?
That means, from the ACLU's perspective, that Amber is about to receive an incredible amount of press and be in the public eye. So what what better a time would it be than now to put out this op-ed so that it generates significant readership about our issues?
And Amber agreed with the ACLU on that point, correct?
I believe the answer is yes. Every step of the way we were making these decisions with Amber's PR representatives involved.
Okay, let's move back to an email in the middle of 257.
Okay.
And it is from Jessica Weitz, time-stamped 11:09 a.m. on December 11th, 2018.
Okay.
Robin, her lawyers omitted the below, but Amber would love to see a way to have that part in bold somehow put back in. Is there an artful way to do that? Otherwise, she is okay with the final. 2 years ago, I sought a temporary restraining order from my then husband. Ellipses was changed to 2 years ago after successfully acquiring a temporary restraining order, but still not cleared by her lawyers. Do you see that?
I do.
Is that consistent with your understanding about what Ms. Heard's desires were?
Yeah, I trust Jessica White's relationship with Amber so that when Jessica told Robin that that was something Amber wanted, I have no reason to think that that's not correct.
Okay, and finally, let's look at the beginning. The first email, Exhibit 41, from Stacy Sullivan to Jessica Weitz, says, yes, and I need to read the latest version, and Robin told me Amber's lawyers took out some of the stuff that made it really powerful. So let me look to see if I think it's strong enough for top tier. What did she mean by top tier?
I think from Stacy's perspective, the more powerful a document is, the more likely it will go into a top tier news outlet such as the New York Times or the Washington Post, you know, that sort of descending tiering that was in Jerry Johnson's email.
Okay. And is Exhibit 41 kept in the ordinary course of the ACLU's business?
Yes.
Was it prepared in the ordinary course of the ACLU's business by people having knowledge and done so contemporaneously?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Let's move ahead to 43.
Yes, sir. Stand by.
Okay. Directing your attention to the first page in Exhibit 43 from Jessica Weitz to Sean Waltz. Who is Sean Walsh?
Sean Walsh at www.rconsulting.com. I don't know who that is. This is an email that includes in it people other than ACLU employees and ACLU consultants. So I'm assuming it's somebody relating to, one of Amber's representatives, but I don't know for sure.
Do you know who Eric George is?
George, BGR firm. Yes, Eric George was one of Amber's attorneys.
And she's announcing to the group that it's going to the Washington Post a triple exclamation points.
Correct.
Take it the ACLU was pleased that it was placed in the Washington Post.
Correct.
And I believe you testified earlier, but I just want to confirm for the record, the ACLU took on the responsibility of attempting to place the op-ed, correct?
Correct.
And why the ACLU instead of Amber or her PR team?
Placing op-eds about matters such as this is the kind of thing that is the bread and butter for the ACLU. And so I don't recall if a conversation happened about whether her PR people or our PR people should be in the ones that do the work to place this, but it is fully consistent with how we do our work that we placed this one.
All right, let's go back to Exhibit 42, if you don't mind.
Yes, sir. Stand by.
Have you ever seen this document before, Mr. Doherty?
I am familiar with this document.
Is this one of the documents you reviewed in preparation for this deposition today?
Yes.
Was it made in the ordinary course of ACLU's business by people having knowledge and doing so contemporaneously?
Correct, yes.
Was it maintained by the ACLU in the ordinary course of business?
Yes.
Would you please direct your attention, sir, to page Bates number 1181. In the middle of the page purports to be an email from Stacey Sullivan, Michael Larrabee, and others at the Washington, well, I'll just say Michael Larrabee. Who is Michael Larrabee?
Michael Larrabee appears to be a person who was a contact that Stacey Sullivan had at the Washington Post. And so she reached out to him first about placing the ad. And then because she received a bounce back out of office from Mike Larrabee, she sent her original request to Michael Duffy and Mark Laswell, also at Washington Post.
And what was the purpose of her sending them this email?
This was her attempt to get the op-ed placed.
And she writes, "Hey, Michael, wondering if we might interest you in a piece by Amber Heard, who, as you may recall, was beaten up during her brief marriage to Johnny Depp, on what the incoming Congress can do to help protect women in similar situations." Did I read that correctly?
Yes, you read it correctly.
All right, let's look, please. Let's turn to Exhibit 73.
Yes, sir. Stand by.
Doherty, have you ever seen this document before?
Yes.
Is this the online copy of the op-ed that the ACLU placed?
Yes.
Directing your attention to the title, Amber Heard, I spoke up against sexual violence and faced our culture's wrath. That has to change. Who came up with that title?
Based on my investigation, I'm not aware of I'm not aware that the ACLU had any role in writing the name of the op-ed piece. And my understanding of how op-ed pieces work is that it is the media, in this case, the Washington Post, would have drafted the name of the title of the op-ed and not the person who wrote the op-ed.
Did the Washington Post seek the ACLU's or Ms. Heard's approval of its title?
I believe the answer to that is no. There's nothing in the evidence that shows that they reached out to us to do that, and it is inconsistent with my understanding in that these news outlets do not usually ask for the permission of the author of the op-ed for when they come up with the title.
Hello, Mr. Doherty. Would you please, or would the technician please call up Exhibit 45?
Yes, sir. Stand by.
Mr. Doherty, have you ever seen Plaintiff's Exhibit 45, which is Bates number ACLU 623?
Hold Hold on, I'm just making it a little bigger. Okay, yes, I have seen this document.
And is this one of the documents you reviewed in preparation for your deposition?
That's correct.
And what is it?
This is an article that was in US Today and specifically ties Amber's statements in her op-ed piece to Johnny Depp.
And when Jessica White says so much for not mentioning JD, what did she mean?
I speculate that she was saying that there were significant efforts made by Amber's attorneys to take out the references to Johnny Depp and her marriage, and yet nonetheless, people made that connection.
And in particular, the reporter for the USA Today took her to be referring to Johnny Depp when she spoke of being the victim of domestic violence, correct?
Correct.
Was this document prepared in the ordinary course of the ACLU's business contemporaneously by people having knowledge?
Yes, it was.
Is it maintained by the ACLU in the ordinary course of business?
Yes.
And would you please move ahead now to Exhibit 46?
Yes, sir. Stand by.
Mr. Doherty, have you ever seen Exhibit 46, which is ACLU page number 1287?
Yes.
What is it?
This is a statement by Robin Schulman saying that that the article that they're referring to basically, recasts everything that is said, but ties it to Johnny Depp.
So Ms. Schulman is agreeing with Mrs. White's characterization that the USA took Ms. Heard to be referring to her allegations of physical violence by Johnny Depp, correct?
Yes.
And she says it's kind of amazing that they just grabbed the entire op-ed and rewrote it using Johnny's name. Why was it amazing?
I don't know why she found it amazing.
Because that was consistent with your understanding. She was referring at least in part to Johnny Depp, correct?
Yeah, based on my review of prior drafts of the op-ed, I knew that there were that she was referring to Johnny Depp and her marriage.
Was Exhibit 46 prepared in the ordinary course of business by people having knowledge contemporaneously?
Yes.
Was it maintained in the ordinary course of the ACLU's business?
Yes.
Okay, let's move to Exhibit 59, please, which is Bates numbers ACLU 2614 through 2616.
Okay.
Have you ever seen this document before?
Just going to the beginning. Yes.
And what is it?
This is a conversation among ACLU employees regarding what were the amounts contributed to the ACLU that were connected to our relationship with Ms. Heard.
And is this Exhibit 59 kept in the ordinary course of the ACLU's business?
Yes.
And it was prepared contemporaneously by people with knowledge in the ordinary course of the ACLU's business, correct?
Correct.
And looking at the chart on ACLU 2615, this is the same contributions chart that you testified about earlier from Salesforce, correct?
Correct.
And again, as in the prior exhibit, this chart or ledger does not reflect the $100,000 contribution from Johnny Depp in Amber Heard's name in August of 2016, correct?
Correct.
And you still can't account for why that wouldn't have been included.
We assume that there was an error made in not including that in Ms. Heard's account, where we keep the records of her in Salesforce. Although Anthony, as you see, then raised the very question, what about the $100,000?
And directing your attention to the first page in this exhibit, do you see the email from Mr. Romero to Mr. Moresco? Subject, a quick question. Mr. Romero asked, did Elon's other gifts come from Vanguard? To what does that refer?
My personal knowledge is that Anthony was just asking whether other gifts from Elon Musk had been issued from recommendations he made to Vanguard regarding his donor-advised fund at Vanguard.
And Mr. Moresco then responds, one of them, yes. His $5 million gift in February 2017 was from Vanguard. Do you see that?
I see it.
And if you look at the next page, Vanguard was the same entity that made the soft credit contribution in Amber Heard's name to the tune of $500,000, correct?
Correct.
And he says, in any case, my understanding was that the $500,000 from Vanguard was recommended by EM. Do you see that?
Yes.
And EM stands for Elon Musk, correct?
Correct.
And also in that email above that, Mr. Moresco states that Mr. Musk's $1 million gift in May 2018 was from Fidelity. Do you see that?
Yes, he must have, either that means a separate donor advised fund he has at Fidelity, or from Fidelity, in direct investment accounts he has at Fidelity. I'm assuming the former, but I don't know.
And if you look at the next page in the Salesforce chart, the second payment credited to Ms. Heard for $350,000 as of December 11th, 2018, came from that same Fidelity, correct?
I don't know the answer to that question. I know that it came from a Fidelity donor advised fund, the $350,000, but I don't know if it is Elon Musk's donor advised fund at Fidelity.
But it could be.
It could be.
Okay, let's move, thank you, on to 61, please. Which is Bates number ACLU 1669 through 71. Directing your attention to the last email in this exhibit from Jill Sargent to Inga Sarda Sorensen and Tyler Richard. Who were Inga Sarda Sorensen and Tyler Richard?
Inga and Tyler are both senior communications department strategists in our communications department.
Okay. And Ms. Sargent from Reuters asked, I'm preparing some material while awaiting a verdict in the Johnny Depp libel trial in London and wanted to fact check Amber Heard's current previous links with the ACLU. Do you recall that Mr. Depp's that this is a reference to Mr. Depp's defamation case in the UK against the Sun?
It appears to me that that's the trial she's referring to.
Okay, directing your attention, please, to page number ACLU 1670, the email from Jessica Whites to Tyler Richards. Do you see where Ms. Whites writes, the answer is yes, she's still an ambassador. That's a reference to Ms. Heard still being an ACLU ambassador, correct?
Correct.
Then Ms. Whites writes, quote, she donated her full settlement to charity, 50% to the ACLU and 50% to another organization. That's a reference to Ms. Heard's representation that she donated the full amount of her divorce settlement from Johnny Depp to charity, correct?
Correct.
And that statement was not true. She had not donated the full amount of her settlement, $7 million, to the ACLU or the Children's Hospital of Los Angeles, correct?
At the time that Jess Whites wrote this in July of 2020, Ms. Heard had not donated her full settlement to the ACLU, and I'm not aware of what she did to the other organization.
At the time Ms. Whites wrote that, the ACLU was still $2.2 million short, even if you credit Ms. Heard with the $100,000 that Johnny Depp gave to the ACLU, correct?
At the time that she wrote this, we had received the 1.3, so yes, 2.2 million of the full 3.5 million we had not received.
Was Exhibit 61 kept in the ordinary course of the ACLU's business?
Yes.
Was it prepared in the ordinary course of the business by people having knowledge contemporaneously?
Yes.
Okay, let's move to Exhibit 62, please. Have you seen this document before?
Yes.
What is it?
This is Jessica Whites reaching out to the communications department in order to come up with a correct statement that we could make in response to the Reuters article. And she comes up with recommended language on this that she then wants to confirm with our development department. So she is doing diligence to ensure that anything we say to the media is going to be correct.
All right. Let's move ahead to Exhibit 63. Do you have that in front of you?
I'm just making it larger right now. It just arrived.
You ever seen this document before?
Yes.
What is it?
This is back and forth between Richard Tyler in the communications department, Jessica Whites, and another communications department junior person, Ava Lopez. And it all concerns what we can say to, what we should say to Reuters in response to their question about Amber and her contributions to the ACLU.
And this was prepared in the ordinary course of the ACLU's business, correct?
Correct.
And it was prepared and maintained in the ordinary course of the ACLU's business, true?
True. Correct.
Let's look at the second page of the exhibit, an email from Tyler Richard to Jessica Whites. Mm-hmm. Who is Tyler Richard?
It's Richard Tyler, no, it's Tyler Richard. That's right, Tyler Richard, and he is a senior person in our communications department.
And Mr. Richard says, Amber Heard is an ACLU ambassador for women's rights since 2018. She also pledged her full settlement to charity. Do you see that?
I do.
And Ms. White's responds, yeah, I think that's safer. I had nightmares about this last night. I'm very upset. Do you think this is okay? why was Ms. White so upset about the characterization of Ms. Heard's charitable donations or lack thereof?
My understanding is that as a communications department professional, Jessica was concerned about these news articles that were appearing and what impact they would have on, how the ACLU and its work with Amber is seen.
She was concerned that the ACLU was not telling the truth about Amber's paying the $3.5 million, correct?
I don't see it that way. I see it as her doing everything she can in order to produce a correct statement to the press.
Wouldn't the correct statement to the press be that she's short $2.3 million?
As I testified earlier, that's not the kind of thing that we would ever say about a donor to the ACLU. Instead, we would, especially when it isn't the fact that there was any specific time period by which we were supposed to have received any specific amount of money, considering that she didn't sign the pledge agreement, and therefore there's an attempt so as an organization, we attempt to work with our donors who are having financial difficulties in order to receive, the funding from them that they want to give to us. So no, I don't see this. I don't know. We would, in that sort of scenario, we would never say she's short anything.
Directing your attention to the email at page number ACLU 1700 from Ms. White's to Mr. Richard, dated July 31. She says, "I'm just stressed about her and the difficulties with all this." Who is her?
Assume that is Amber Heard.
Why was Ms. White stressed about Amber Heard?
Because this is a stressful thing to have these kinds of news reports out there, and in particular about an ACLU ambassador.
What kind of news reports are you referring to?
What I believe the Reuters article, from the Reuters article.
And what did the news article say that was distressing?
I think it was the tie between the attempts to make Ms. Heard look poorly in the press regarding her donations.
But did you talk to Ms. White in preparation for this deposition?
Yes, I did.
What did she tell you about the donations and how she was stressed about Ms. Heard?
Ms. White didn't say anything specific about that.
You didn't ask her about why she said she was stressed about Amber Heard and the difficulties with all this?
I believed in reviewing the documents that I had an understanding of why this was a difficult situation for many people.
So the answer is you didn't ask her about that, did you?
I did not ask her that question.
I guess we'll have to. Did you ask her about the nightmares she had about Amber Heard and why she had what the substance of her nightmares were about Amber Heard?
No, I did not.
Your Honor, counsel for Ms. Heard is now taking over the questioning.
All right, thank you.
Exhibit number 1, this is page down 2866. It was introduced as well by counsel for Mr. Depp, but it's easier for me to just jump into this one. Do you recognize this document?
Yes.
It says here, Amber, I described your plan to donate $3.5 million to ACLU over the next 10 years, as you very much believe in what they are doing. Now, the way in which donate is used here, how would you interpret that?
I would say that at the very least, it is expressing an intention to make that donation
And
by the term plan.
Okay. And would you distinguish between donate and pledge given the reference to the next 10 years?
About Elon Musk's intention?
I would read this to mean that it isn't clear whether this is intended to be a pledge, a legally binding pledge to create a receivable. This is something that I would want to, what I would hope would be a legally binding pledge, but I wouldn't necessarily say that this was.
Right. And the term donate here, how would you interpret that based on the description you gave a little earlier?
I would take donate to mean contributions from Ms. Heard.
And what, if any, interpretation would you have that this also meant pledge?
So two things in response to your question. One is plan to donate. When I said it would come from Ms. Heard, I would think that that would be either Ms. Heard directly or from a donor advised fund that she has set up and would recommend. But over the next 10 years makes me think that donate could theoretically be a pledge, but that's something that we would want to attempt to confirm.
And just so I understand, what's the difference between donate and pledge in how you are interpreting this?
If this used the word pledge instead, I would have more assurance that this was intended to be a hard and fast promise that even could potentially be a legally binding promise.
I'm going to show you what has been marked as Defendant's Exhibit Number 2. Do you recognize this document? Page 2632.
I do recognize this document.
And what is your understanding of what this is?
That this is the cover letter to which the check for $100,000 was attached, which related to Johnny Depp's contribution to the ACLU in the name of Amber Heard.
Now, you've used the term binding a few times here in responding to these. What is your distinction with the words pledge and donate that relates specifically to binding?
A pledge is, if something is legally binding, it is a pledge, but it doesn't necessarily mean that everybody that uses the term pledge means something that's legally binding. Donate is a much, much broader term.
And donate can mean pledge?
Yeah, I think that the word donate can be used in connection with a pledge.
Do you have any understanding of what Amber Heard believed was a pledge versus a donation?
I don't know.
Did the ACLU have any reason to believe that Amber Heard would not pay the ACLU $3.5 million?
I think that everybody at the ACLU was hoping, the ACLU was hoping and expecting that the full $3.5 million would be paid to the ACLU. The fact that the pledge form wasn't signed was, cast some potential doubt on that. And then once Ms. Heard began having financial difficulties, we obviously recognized that that might impact whether the full $3.5 million is paid or impact whether it's paid over a much longer period of time in some intermittent way.
Do you have any evidence to suggest that Amber Heard still does not intend to pay the ACLU the full $3.5 million?
I have based on my investigation, I'm not aware of any indication that Ms. Heard has decided to no longer pay additional amounts to the ACLU.
I'm going to ask you to bring up number 4, please. I'm going to ask you to take a look at this document, and it starts out on the bottom with Amber on October 17, 2016 to ARP. Who's that?
That's Anthony Romero's private email, Anthony Romero private.
All right, and she's telling him to go ahead and it's all right to cash Mr. Depp's check. Do you see that?
I do.
And then Mr. Romero responds to her, says, thank you for the response. We will cash the check. But that means you have, quote, overpaid for this year as you wired $350,000 and then the $100,000 from Mr. Depp. So you can keep track that where you are on the overall amounts. Do you see that?
I do.
I'm going to show you what has been marked as defendant's exhibit number 14, and it's base stamp ACLU 2588 through 89. This is, and I realize there was a version of this that Mr. Chu showed you, but this includes an email from Mr. Romero to Jonathan Moresco and then Mr. Moresco to Mr. Romero with a copy to Mike Weir. And it says here, hi, Anthony, if you get a chance on Sunday, can you please check in with Amber on her next pledge payment? She has a balance of $2.55 million on her $350,000 10-year pledge. Below is a summary of her other payments. Do you see that?
I do.
Okay. And so this has the $500,000 and the $350,000 and the $100,000 on it, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And that was September 28, 2018. I'm going to show you what has been marked as Defendant's Exhibit number 15. It's base stamp 2595, and I'm going to make it larger. And if I can show you, we have an email from Mr. Romero saying, is there anything I can do to help facilitate pledge payment of $350,000? And it's dated November 27, 2018. Do you see that?
I do.
All right. And then Amber comes back on 11/29 and says, hang on, I'll be right with you. You see that?
Correct. Yeah, I see it.
Okay. And then the $350,000 payment came in on December 11, 2018, correct?
Correct.
All right. And that made a total of what, 1.3 million, we've decided, right? What was the total amount of the donations after the 12/11/2018 that were made towards Ms. Heard's $3.5 million pledge to ACLU?
1.3 million.
All right. Now, if Ms. Heard had just given $350,000 each year, what would the amount have been as of December 2018?
1,550,000. It would be 350,000, 350,000, 350,000. So that's 1,050,000.
Okay. And so she was effectively 250,000 ahead of that as of December 2018, correct?
Objection.
After Mr. Depp filed suit against Amber Heard on March 1, 2019, what, if any, payments did Ms. Heard make to the ACLU towards her $2.5 million pledge?
No additional payments.
Now, this was also shown to you by Mr. Chu on one of his documents. It's ACLU document 3037, the 12/11/2018 $350,000 donation from Amber Heard Anonymous. Do you see that?
I do.
Now, the ACLU continues to recognize Amber Heard as an ambassador for the ACLU. Is that correct?
We do. She continues to be listed on our website.
May a donor deduct a donation before they actually make the payment to the ACLU?
No. Yeah, a deduction cannot be taken prior to when the deduction is made. A deduction is taken with respect to a tax year, so the deduction would have to be made within a tax year in order for it to be deducted that year.
Okay. Now, you also testified earlier about different sources of donations, and you said that someone can make a donation in honor to fulfill someone else's pledge. Do you recall that testimony?
A person can make a donor in honor of someone else. And when I said in honor of a person, I was more referring to, in memory of a person or in honor of, a new executive director of an organization. People make donations in honor of them. But a person certainly can make a gift and say that I would like to make this gift to the organization because I know that this other person has committed something to the organization and I'd like to pay that amount. A person can do that.
Now, was it your understanding with the letter from Mr. White that Mr. Depp was making a $100,000 payment on behalf of Amber Heard towards her $3.5 million pledge?
Yes, that gift from was in connection with the amounts that Amber had said that she wanted to contribute to the organization.
All right, and it's been your testimony, I think, that there was an error in not including that in your sales force. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, is it also your understanding that Elon Musk made the $500,000 payment towards Amber Heard's $3.5 million pledge?
Yes, we don't know that with absolute certainty, but that is our organization's understanding.
Okay. And you credited it towards Ms. Heard's pledge, correct?
Yes.
Does it matter to the ACLU where it comes from if it's tagged and said it's as part of this person's pledge?
We are always happy to receive funds from donors, and if a donor is unable to make a contribution of an amount that they said they intended to make, if they're able to have someone else make a contribution to the organization, that's completely fine by us.
It's still more money to ACLU, correct?
Correct.
And it's towards a pledge that you're hoping you can count on, correct?
Toward a pledge in the weak form of it, which is that somebody's making an intention. It would not be able to be satisfied in connection with a legally binding pledge.
Well, you did credit the $500,000 towards Amber Heard's pledge, correct?
Yes, we did.
And although you didn't initially credit the $100,000 payment by Mr. Depp towards her pledge, you agree that that should have been credited towards Amber Heard's pledge as well, correct?
Correct.
Now, we saw a document that Mr. Chu showed you a short while ago that indicated that Elon Musk made some other significant contributions, including $1 million and $5 million that were separate and apart from the $500,000, correct? Is that
correct?
Okay. Now, Mr. Chu asked you if the ACLU benefited from the fact that Amber Heard pledged or donated the $3.5 million. And I think your answer was that you benefit, whenever there's donations made and the publicity associated with it. What, if any, benefit would the ACLU have had if Amber Heard pledged or donated $1.3 million as opposed to $3.5 million?
If I understand your question correctly, I think that it is always a positive thing to report on donations made to the ACLU.
Mr. Dougherty, you testified to a number of documents about the op-ed and the back and forth with the attorneys and everything else. Are you aware of any evidence at any stage of the op-ed drafts through publication that Amber Heard did not rely on her counsel's advice?
From what I know, Ms. Heard involved her attorneys and made changes to the op-ed based on the advice of her attorneys.
And so my question is, are you aware of any evidence that would suggest that Amber Heard did not rely on the advice of her attorneys?
Based on my investigation, I'm not aware of a situation where she did not rely on her attorneys.
Thank you. And I'm going to make a reference to their exhibit number 31. This is, it's just called Exhibit 31, and Mr. Chu put it down. Jerry Johnson was writing an email, and he listed a number of topics. Was it your understanding that the ACLU chose a number of those topics, of course, subject to Amber's approval, but it was their idea on some of these issues to address in the op-ed?
My understanding is that those were ACLU issues that Jerry Johnson came up with that might have been issues that could be covered in the op-ed.
All right. I assume for your next witness is a remote witness, correct? And I assume it'll take longer than 30 minutes. Is that a fair assumption?
Yes, that's right, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor. I think it'll take a little longer than 30 minutes. Yeah.
All right. I think what I'd propose then, ladies and gentlemen, what I might have you do is take an extended lunch till 2:30 because I have an obligation at 2. So then that means, though, that we would go through till 5:30 tonight. Is that agreeable with everybody on the jury? Is that agreeable with everybody here? All right, let's go ahead and do that. Then let's go ahead and give you a lunch break until 2:30, okay? Just do not discuss the case and do not do any outside research, okay? Thank you. All right, so we'll be in recess till 2, okay? All right, thank you.